Oh, I hear it.
It's very small. Working. It's working.
Do you want to try, do you want to test? I guess we don't need a, do we need the mic? Should you test the mic?
We can test the mic. Sorry. Still a touch big for that. This is gonna end up being like the smallest possible. Sorry, guys. You guys still see it? I want to try and make it fit onto the screen.
You're getting closer. You're definitely getting closer.
Okay. So I use the table from behind it.
No, it's getting worse.
Because the projector's too far back. But I just actually, if we're okay with it, let's just take the projector away.
I think it's actually pretty clear, so we don't, yeah, I think we can,
Next time we might want to project up to that wall.
good call. Now we know.
Next time, we roll it out. Hi, how are you?
Mark.
Hi, Mark. Do you have a presentation or is there?
Yes.
Okay. Want to try and use the wall first?
Yeah, Yeah, I think it'll
That looks okay.
that looks
It's
yeah.
better, right?
definitely.
Oh, yeah, you were. Cool. I'll get that sent to you.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's where we're looking at Walmart. I'm gonna go say hi to the seniors are saying that. But you can talk to Pascal. We have all the coffee for you. Just so we can get you guys all hyped up and raring to go, and sweets. So please help yourself to some of the sweets and some of the coffees and everything. So, but thank you all for being here. Thanks so much. Hi, hello, hi. Congratulations. All right. But have some coffee, there's some water, there's some sweets. Hi, welcome, come on in. Thank you. Yeah, and grab a seat, we got lots, and Pascal and Jack are here, and some go say hi, see you next door. Hi, everyone, come on in, come on in. Hi, welcome, hi, come on in.
Very good, how are you?
So she doesn't have the most up-to-date fund. And she can- Yeah, yeah, so you can send them to her. These tattoos. I was right. I was right.
Anybody named Ricardo here? Ricardo? Found some ID on the parking lot.
Yeah, it didn't look like you could.
Is it
I know that.
Canadian residence?
Yeah, this the council.
Oh, okay. I knew there was gonna be a turnout. I just like didn't know. Like I was like, oh, there's 4 people. Right. Of course. Like, of course. But happy.
Here's for the entire building. They're all here.
Streaming. Is there? Yeah. Where's the salt? Oh, so weird. No, you're fine. No, you're totally fine. Actually, I could probably move this a little bit.
I can shift over, whatever's easier.
Is it here? Is it quite warm in here? It's very warm. Is it warm? More people are coming. You're not interested. Should we tell her? Can we need more chairs?
There's 7 chairs on the other side if anyone wants to Oh my God, we need more chairs.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, hey guys. Hi, welcome everyone. Hey Shane, how's it going? Thank you guys so much for coming. We clearly need more people here. Unless everybody's okay with standing, maybe we'll rotate. We'll halfway through it, half of the people will stand up and then the other half will sit down. So. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. Come on in, come on in. You may also want to try and push this way too. Push this way. We might have to do a switch over halfway through, but get people to stand up and sit down and that sort of thing. So.
Go into my bag. No, that's not my bag. Where's my bag? The leather one. Not that one. Oh.
We're gonna bring in more chairs, guys. More chairs. Sorry, I'm just gonna grab my wallet. Yay! Come on, yeah. We're getting more chairs too, so. So there's more chairs coming as well. Jack, I think we're gonna have to get a bigger venue next time.
Next time, yes.
Come on in. Thank you all for coming. Like, look at how many monitors we have going
I
on.
know, we have a lot of monitors. I'm aware.
Guys, Mark, Atlanta, you guys know? There's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on.
You're slicing off two, and then I'm also comment moderating. So. Yes, it is a lot of screens, yeah. Well, we were. Wow, yeah, very well attended.
Hello. Testing. So I know that the mic works. Wow, thank you all. Oh my gosh.
Obviously, the budget didn't work for a lot of people.
Yeah. Or should I start crying now? Guys, folks, remember, I'm into I think day 110 or something like that. So just saying that right now. Level setting everyone that I'm just past that 90-day mark. So. Oh, there's a couple more sign-in sheets this way. So
Thank
if you
you.
want to come in this way. Couple more sign-in sheets. We are bringing up chairs. Wow. Thank you all for being here. It's 7:10, and I thought maybe we'll get started, mostly because this is amazing. Thank you. Honestly, thank you so much for being here. Although I am also a little bit scared. So please go easy on me. My name is Tammy. I am the new Ward 4 City Councilor, so thank you again. We have apparently chairs that may or may not be coming. I think that they're coming from downstairs, so there may be a oh, Pascal, she's got 3. She's muscling in 3. Now there's more coming. And then there's a cart coming. Oh, thank you. Oh, Robbie. Oh, wow. Amazing. Thank you. Pascal, do you want to put them in the front there, maybe? And then Robbie, do you want to put them in the front there? Yeah, just right in there. We've got lots of space in the front there. So yes, thank you again for being here. So I thought maybe we'll go through a quick little agenda. So tonight's conversation is going to first be a little bit of planning 101. And the reason why we wanted to do this, we wanted to speak to you from a city perspective. What is the process for the planning process? And in particular, I know that a lot of our neighbors and our residents are going to be really concerned with several large scale developments that are going to be happening. So we wanted to give at least basis, foundational, give you a sense of understanding how we come about getting to where we get to. Then we're going to do a Ward 4 update. followed by question and answer. So today, I wanted to do a quick little land acknowledgement. We are gathered today on the land of the Anishinaabe, which is also the traditional lands of the neutral Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Land is covered by the dish with one spoon wampum between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee. The city of Hamilton is within the boundaries of the Between the Lakes Purchase and the Mississaugas of the Credit with the Treaty 3, 1792. So, do want to introduce my team. I'm here. That's me. But at the back, manning the 18,000 devices is Jack. Jack, wave your hand, say hi. I think some of our residents have actually been connecting with Jack directly. So Jack is actually manning our phones. So she's the first level of contact for our team because we very quickly realized that I am a bottleneck. So if you actually try to contact me, I'm usually in 80 bajillion meetings. So I want to be very responsive, and this is why we have Jack as our first line, as our connection point. Next is Pascal. Pascal, wave your hand. Pascal is my constituency assistant. So Pascal is actually working with me on helping develop policy, looking at how are we navigating City Hall, but also part of the, oh, you gotta get over here then.
Oh, no.
Yeah, right there. Right there. Okay.
There you go.
And Pascal is helping me with navigating all of the different policies and procedures that we have at City Hall, as well helping me with just understanding the sheer amount of data that comes into the Ward 4 office. So I'm super thankful for Jack and Pascal today. Oh, Pascal, please be careful. Okay, please be careful. Okay, thank you. So on to our next order of business. I want to introduce to you Mark and Alana from our planning department. We have a big presentation. So this is just, are we okay with the agenda moving forward? Everybody okay with that? It'll get warm in here, so please take off your jackets. I have hot coffee. Sorry about that. I didn't think about how hot it would be in here. But please, we'll have Mark and Alana come up and do a quick presentation on Planning 101.
So, guys, I have a microphone here.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us at your community meeting. My name is Mark. I'm a planner with the Sustainable Communities section. It's a new name of the planning division. We're one of the policy sections in the planning department. And with me is Alina. She's a planner on the urban team, which is the development planning team that reviews development applications in your ward. So we're here just to talk to you about what urban planning is and what we do over in the planning department. So I'll just give you a quick definition of urban planning. You might hear it called regional planning, rural planning if you're out in the rural area. So it's a technical and political process that focuses on controlling and designing change, development in the built environment. So as planners, what we're looking at is we're looking to make recommendations, we're looking to make policies with the objective of improving communities and quality of life. We're looking to ensure growth is orderly and development is compatible. And we're looking to protect the valuable resources that we have. So, you know, land is a finite resource, water, air, cultural heritage, all those features that make our city what it is. So how does planning work in Ontario? So at the very top, kind of the rules of the game is the Planning Act. So this is a provincial legislation that tells planners, you know, how we need to engage, what type of applications are, what type of policies we need to have, and how planning is to be undertaken. So after that, we have what's called the provincial policy statement, and then we have regional plans. So in Hamilton, we have growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe that covers the entire region from Oshawa all the way down to Niagara. So it's a regional plan, and all of our plans at the city, it all kind of works up. It all has to comply with those plans and policies that the province has approved. So here at the city, we have an official plan, which is our guiding document. It's our higher level policies. We have secondary plans that are for specific areas of the city, specific neighborhoods. We have a zoning bylaw, and then we have council adopted guidelines, urban design, transportation, site plan guidelines, helping us kind of determine what good planning is on a site level. So the official plan, so this is our guiding document. So it provides high level growth for how the city should grow. It gives us a structure, and it tells us where specific land uses are to be located throughout the city. And it provides us with tools or policies that help us evaluate development proposals as they come in. And then I'll get to it in a second, but they provide the basis for the zoning bylaws that regulate what you can do on your property, what others can do on theirs. And then I mentioned earlier, they include secondary plans. So those are more neighborhood specific. An example would be, we have a secondary plan for downtown. There's a Centennial neighborhood secondary plan near Eastgate. There's a number around the city. Those are just more specific policies, more specific guidance for specific neighborhoods in the city. So this is just our land use map in our official plan. So you can see high level, it just tells you where all the different land uses are. You can see the green are parks. We have blue is institutional areas. The pink is mixed use, a lot of commercial in those areas. And then purple is employment areas. And then the yellow is kind of the neighborhood. So the rest of the city where you find homes, schools, all types of different land use you can find in those areas. They're considered more stable. They're kind of what you consider a neighborhood. So next we have a zoning bylaw. So we have the official plan that gives us that high level guidance. The zoning bylaw is now applying regulations on a site-by-site basis. So it's telling you how the land can be used, what kind of uses, does it permit residential, does it permit commercial or industrial? And then it tells you where on the lot the buildings can be located, how tall they can be, whether you need parking, landscaping, all those different regulations, those are found in the zoning bylaw. So just a few examples. The zoning bylaw might tell you how tall your building could be. It might tell you how much of the lot you can cover with the building, and then it might tell you how far you have to be from adjacent lot lines, so you're not having impact on other properties. So here's just a snippet of our zoning map. So you can see it's a lot more detailed. This is just the area around Rosedale Arena. So you can see P2 would be a park zone. You have R1 is a residential zone, an institutional zone where the school is. So each of these zones has its own permitted land uses, its own regulations, building heights, etc. So I'm going to turn it now to Elaine, who's going to talk about planning applications.
Thanks, Pat. So what I'm going to talk about is really just the different processes, who's responsible for what when a private applicant submits an application, and what the different steps are and how you as the public can get involved. So to name a couple of the individuals involved in a private application, we have the proponent. So that would be the agent, the applicant, or the owner. And so they're all either the agent is representing the owner, or they have somebody within their team who's doing it themselves. The development planner, which would be myself, who is responsible for reviewing the applications. Commenting staff and agencies, so that's really the experts who are looking at the technical reviews and determining if the transportation is sufficient, if engineering can support the application. We have members of the public and interested parties, so that would be yourselves and anybody else who is interested in the process and participating. And then we have the decision makers. So that would be members of council, like Councillor Wang, it would be committee of adjustment for minor variance applications, or it would be the director or manager of planning. In some instances, they've been given delegated authority by council to make decisions on some of those applications. So what I really want to reiterate is the decision makers are really the ones who have the authority to ultimately decide whether or not they want to approve, table, or deny an application. And everybody else in the process sort of provides the information about whether or not it's a good development, what it was reviewed against, and the expertise to confirm if it can be supported. So what we have here are the different types of applications. Really what I'm going to focus on in this meeting are the official plan amendment application, zoning bylaw amendment application, and the consent and minor variance application. So those are all processes that you can get involved in. They are council decisions for the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications. And so, for example, that's if somebody wants to come in and change the use of a property or add more units than what's allowed, change the setbacks, things like that. That would be an official plan or a zoning bylaw amendment application. A consent or a minor variance application tends to be your smaller scale projects. So if an individual has a single family home and they want to build a shed, and the shed is a little closer to the property line than what's allowed, that would go to what we call the committee of adjustment application. And those are individuals who have been given authority by council to make decisions on those smaller applications. In both instances, they are public processes. So you would be notified, you have the ability to provide comments, you have the ability to participate. So it's applications that you would be notified either by mail or by signposting. So just briefly, as Mark indicated, what is an official plan amendment application? So this would be the document Mark explained the guiding principles for the city. An official plan amendment application is to change the policy mapping of the municipality's official plan. So what we're looking for, again, the example I gave is if you wanted to, if it was designated commercial and somebody wanted to put an apartment building on it, they would need to do an official plan amendment application. When is an official plan amendment application required? If you want to change the use of the property or develop in a way that doesn't meet the current regulations. So the zoning bylaw amendment application is similarly to change the use of a property, or if you want to construct something that doesn't meet the current regulations. Unlike the official plan, which has more guiding principles, it usually talks about a use or, whether or not services are supportable. The zoning bylaw amendment gets into the details. So it'll ask you how far away you need to be. It'll say you have a maximum height of 22 meters. So it gets to the nitty gritty. So that is where you would be required to change those regulations. Just for information purposes, a zoning bylaw amendment application would be required if an official plan amendment is needed. And the reason is the zoning bylaw amendment application is essentially the implementing document for the official plan. So what we have here is just a high-level flow chart on what the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment processes are. So the first step is actually the formal consultation, which is the green box on top. The formal consultation is where an applicant comes in with a concept or a proposal, and staff reviews it and determines what expertise studies are required. So essentially, we would determine if they wanted to move forward with a formal application, what studies would we need to determine that it can be constructed safely, support our policies, and is a reasonable request. So once the applicants are given a chart with that information, they go back and decide if it's something they want to do. And if that's the case, they are required to provide us with all of that documentation. The next step would be the application submission. Once that's submitted, staff reviews it, make sure everything that was requested is actually in the package. And then we, if that's the case, circulate it. And so there's two steps involved in that. That's the technical review and the public consultation. So to just sort of go over the technical review, staff would take all of the studies that were requested and send it to the expertise we have, whether or not it's internal to the city or external, for example, conservation authorities or any of those departments. They would get the documents to review and provide us with comments. The public consultation, which happens at the same time, is where we ask the applicant to put a sign up on their property, which needs to be visible to the public and legible so that anybody who is in the area knows what's happening. It has some basic information about the applicant, the owner, what they're proposing to do, and what the meeting date would be, and who you can contact to get informed. So usually that would include the development planner who's working on the application at the city. The other thing that we do is we do a public mail out. So that public mail out is 120 meters from property line. So anybody who's within 120 meters of property line will get a letter in the mail informing them that there's an application near their property. And that, again, what the proposal is, how you can participate, and what you can do if you want to provide comments. So after that step is completed, and once we receive the technical comments, and if there's any comments from the public, we take all of those and we provide that to the applicant. The applicant then reviews those documents, and we would provide an opinion on if we have any issues or concerns at that point. Once we've provided the response to the applicant, a public meeting would occur at City Hall. And so that would be essentially a subset of the councillors who are part of this planning committee group, who hear all of these applications and make a recommendation on whether or not it should be approved or denied. At that meeting, you are able to attend in person. If you wanted to write in and attend, you're welcome to do so, but that would be your opportunity to speak to the councillors directly about the application. All of this would happen within 120 days if it's an official plan amendment, and 90 days if it's a zoning bylaw amendment. Once that public meeting has occurred, essentially the recommendation would go to council, which would be usually about a couple weeks after, and their council would make a decision to either support or deny the application. Once that's completed, there is, because it's a public process, an opportunity to appeal. So what I discussed before about how you would participate, whether or not you provide written comments or go to the meeting, that would be how you maintain your appeal rights. So what that means is the decision isn't final until 20 days after the decision is made. Until that point, anybody can say, I disagree with the decision that has made, as long as they have participated within the process. So if you've provided a letter, if you spoke at the public meeting, you've shown that you participated through that process. If you don't like the decision that was made, you do have the right to appeal it to what is known as the LPAT, or the provincial board who makes the decisions on appeals. So if that occurs, that application would then go to the board for review and for essentially a decision. If nobody makes an appeal within 20 days, the decision is final and binding. And so essentially that is when the uses are permitted. So once an official plan and a zoning bylaw amendment application are completed, the next step is actually a site plan. So what is a site plan application? It's essentially an application that provides the municipalities a way to evaluate and regulate the design and the function of the site. And so this, similar to how the zoning bylaw provides the regulations, a site plan goes into more detail, usually looks at the parking, finalizes the location of the parking, looks at the landscape plan and how the landscaping would be provided on the site. And so all of that information gets reviewed at the site plan control stage. When is a site plan control required? The city of Hamilton has a site plan control bylaw, and it's for most types of developments, except for low density developments. So that would be single family homes, semis, things like that. Those are not always under site plan control. Just for information purposes, this is not the public, there's not an opportunity for you to participate and have a voice to appeal the decision, which is a little different than the zoning and the official plan amendment, but it is still all public record. So you are able to access it and review it and see what's happening on the property. So next is the Committee of Adjustment applications. So what is a Committee of Adjustment? It's composed of 9 citizen members appointed by council to deal with minor variances and consents. So essentially, what I described at the beginning, where if somebody has a single family home and they want to put a shed on it, and the shed is too close, then they would go to the Committee of Adjustment for a minor variance. Or, for example, if somebody has a larger lot and they want to sever it so they can have 2 houses instead of 1 large house or 1 large lot, that would go to the Committee of Adjustment. So they function for a Committee of Adjustment is the same as an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. Anybody within 60 meters of the property gets mailed notice that an application has been submitted. They're required to post a sign on the property, and you have an opportunity to participate. Again, you can appeal the minor variance decision, but only certain parties can do that. What is a minor variance? It's a deviation from the requirements of the zoning bylaw, so landscaping, parking, height, that kind of thing. And a severance is the creation of a new lot. So I mentioned a lot about evaluating whether or not a use would be allowed or whether or not a use can be supported. And so what we have here is just a list of studies that could be required by the city for the applicants to submit. So that would include a survey, a concept plan, very often a stormwater management report and a servicing report, a transportation study, and it could include sometimes different things, noise studies and urban design or landscaping plans, depending on the development. So that's just a high-level overview of some of the things we would request at that formal consultation stage, which is the initial stage. And then finally, overall, and I mentioned a couple of times throughout the presentation how you would be able to comment, but this is just a summary page on how you can provide your comments and have input on these applications. So you can participate in the applicant-led public consultation. And so sometimes applicants will have neighborhood meetings outside of the city hall meeting, and they would present their application and what they're proposing to do, and you can provide your comments to them directly. You can provide written comments to the development planner. So their contact information would be on any of the signs or notices that I mentioned would be in the mail out. Or you could make written comments at either the public meeting at City Hall, or if it was a Committee of Adjustment application, a Committee of Adjustment hearing. So all of those are essentially the ways that you can participate in those public consultations. And then in summary, if you ever wanted application materials, they are available upon request from the development planner on the file, but the applicant may also provide the additional opportunities for you to review the application. So sometimes they put their information, the same studies on their website, so you can just download them from their website. If you contact them, they'll mail you directly or sometimes answer the technical questions if you have any. So they are also an opportunity to speak to them. So that is just a high-level summary of the flow of how it works, what your participation is, and overall what we look for when somebody submits an application. So this is just my contact information as well as Mark's. And this bottom is the general inquiries line for planning. So if you had any general inquiries not related to a specific application, that would be where you would send them, and one of the planners would get back to you.
We'll send out these presentations afterwards, but thank you, Joanna and Mark. Guys would like some chairs, but let's take a couple of questions. Let me level set too that they cannot speak about the Brock University development. It is currently under Ontario Land Tribunal right now, so it is in the appeals process, what Alana talked about in the appeals process. So let's take a couple of questions. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, this is more of a process question, but you had the site planning process there. that's between the developer and the site plan control is between the developer and the city. What are the principles, like, what is the paradigm of that? Because obviously you're making those decisions based on something. So like, how is that designed? Are those criteria public?
So that's a good question. Yeah, that criteria and what we base that site plan control process on would be similar to the zoning bylaw amendment process. So for example, sometimes engineering will ask for a functional servicing study, and then they'll ask for specific details at the site plan stage about how many fixtures there are, how many toilets there are, how, those kinds of things. So they really get into the details of the development. Another one is urban design. We'll look at the building. And then sometimes, previously, they would speak to specifically the materials and the colors of the materials to comment on that. So really what we're looking at is the detailed design of that building. So where you might not have that information at the zoning stage, you will have that information at the build out stage.
I would just add that because it's a site plan, because it's not a public process, it has to comply with the zoning bylaw. So that's kind of already established. And secondly, we have what's called site plan guidelines. And you can find those on the city's website. You just Google site plan guidelines, City Hamilton. And yeah, there's various requirements related to transportation access or grading, that type of thing. It's laid out there, so.
Just to Mark's point, those site plan guidelines are right there and the council adopted, so all of that is public.
Yes, right here.
Hi, sorry, I don't know if you're able to comment on this, but just the way that the Brock thing did come out of, sort of felt like it came out of nowhere. Was this in fact followed?
Yes.
Yeah, so the hard part is just to go back to that flow chart. The first step, the formal consultation, there wouldn't be a mail out or anything like that for you guys to get, because it's not a actual formal application yet. Really, it's the private individual coming to us and saying, we have an idea, this is what we would like to do, what do we need to provide you to have you evaluate if it's a good idea. And so that first process, there is no mail out. And so when the mail out occurs would be when the application is submitted, which I know feels like it's late in the stage, but it is the first step of a formal application that you guys are notified and the mail out goes out. So.
Yes.
Question on the, you mentioned 120 meters and 60 meters on the minor variation. Where did that come from? Because depending on where these things are, you could just hit businesses and never hit residential.
Can you repeat the question so that way it's like captured on the live stream?
So the individual asked if where the 120 meters and the 60 meters comes from in terms of the mailing radius. So that's actually dictated by the Planning Act. So the very first document that Mark showed, it gives us all the regulations and the rules that we must abide by and follow, including timelines on when we must notify the public about applications. And so that's where the 120 meters comes from.
Yeah, just back to the other question, in terms of whether that process was followed, it has to be followed. It's in the Planning Act. So that if you're ever wondering, where those rules come from, it's, like I said, it's kind of the rules of the game is from the province, and we follow them. That's our role is as a staff, one of the things that we have to make sure we do.
Pascal, you keep doing this.
Yeah, Mark needs to move.
Sorry. I just see Pascal just like this. I don't know what that means. Yes.
So given that planning process, I don't know if you can speak specific to this, but where are we at on that stage with regard to Delta High School? Yes.
I have an update on that. It's actually later on in the slides, but I think do you guys want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I'm not the planner who's actually working on that file. So the best person to talk to would be my colleague Daniel, and Daniel Barnett, but he's the one who is actually processing that file. And so he would know the nuances. But it did come in later in the year, so it would likely be at that first public consultation, technical review circulation process. So that's where it would stand.
Okay, so Pascal has given me very good notes that apparently later on in my slides, so you guys can't be surprised later, okay? Or can you guys? But
It looks like there is a public consultation for February the 15th, so you can submit written comments to our planning and economic development ahead of the public meeting. So the public meeting is set for February, end of February?
The deadline to submit comments is February 15th.
February
So
15th is the
we'll
deadline
have
to
the
submit
information.
comments.
Yeah.
And I do have a slide on that. Oh, but we did not include we'll have to include Daniel's contact information.
It's on the next page because the notes were too long.
Got it. I see it. Got it. So you'll see that later, is what I'm gonna say. Yes.
Are you doing a newsletter?
Yes.
We haven't started with that.
No.
A lot of people that are here for that one purpose of the Delta. And nobody that I talked to in my neighborhood even knew this meeting was happening tonight.
That's right.
And so there's been poor communication.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
Yeah. Does anyone have any more questions for the planners?
yes, I was gonna
Before
answer
we
that
get-
later. Yes.
I don't know if I'm just out to lunch, I'm, sheer volume of people, like, how is that taken into consideration when we're doing this? So the build is massive, but the sheer volume of people, when we think about our schools and our grocery stores and our roadways, when we're already decreasing our roadways with the LRT, yes, some people will use that. But our schools are at the max, we have 2 high schools in the East End. Where are all these kids going? I do understand that there's a wave when it comes to kids going in and out of school. They get older, areas get older, but that is a whole lot of people coming. And we have,
But then they do
Choose-
it over, too.
of course, that's what I'm saying, they
Yeah.
wave. But, you know, if we're thinking about condos, there is a certain demographic, I guess, that would, depending on the size of the condo buildings and that are going in there, maybe young families and those kinds of things. So I think of Cunningham and the space there and the love for the green space and how lucky we are to have it and just how quickly that's gonna be filled with portables. And so,
You drive past those there when you're home, you'll see.
right, and so I just find the building, it's huge, it's whatever.
Are you talking about
The sheer volume of people
Yeah,
is
she's
what I'm
talking-
concerned about.
She's talking about people.
The amount of people that it's bringing to a very small space, and then we've got also possibly the Brock.
So do you guys have a waiting list?
So generally, just to speak to your comment, we do review, and so one of my comments was that we circulate to technical experts, but that also includes people like the school board. So the school board does get notified when there's applications like this, which include, you know, how many units there are and what type of units there are is usually shown on the drawings. So a lot of people are circulated to provide their comments. And so that's, as planners, we would wait and see and review all of those comments. And then all of that information is also given to the decision makers, similarly Councillor Wang, and she would have all of that in front of her, as well as your comments and the recommendation report. So
Yeah, I would just add the importance of the slide Elena showed about the different roles. So, you know, there's an impression because the notice came from the planning department that it's the planners who are proposing it, but it's the onus is really on the person who's proposing the building to demonstrate through all those studies that we require them to do. They have to go out and hire the necessary professionals to demonstrate that there is capacity in the infrastructure to accommodate it. So.
Actually, I'm gonna go to this gentleman first. Yeah.
Does the city have any guidelines on unit type mix in new buildings? Or like, I know some cities have requirements for a certain number of 2 or 3 bedroom units. To be included in each building. So I just noticed the Delta one is a lot of studios and very few bedrooms.
Yeah, so the question was whether we have minimum number of different size units. And currently we don't. We do have a planner in my group who's looking at family-friendly housing guidelines. That's a project you can look up on the website. But as of currently, we don't have specific requirements in terms of number of 3-bedroom versus 2-bedroom.
Okay, so there's no mechanism for the city to require.
Not currently, no.
Brock University site, there's almost 1,100 single units, 1,341 units. So the majority of them are just either one or two people, not families.
So I just wanted, like, there's a ton of steps here, like a lot of them. And we do have a property crisis. Everyone in here who owns a home, has their home value double in the last 5 years, which seems unsustainable. So like, is there any push or is there any focus on, not necessarily streamlining, because that means getting rid of people having their input, but is there perhaps plans to optimize this such that we can have, we don't need to talk about one mega project every 5 years, when we can just have small little ones throughout, you know?
So yeah, that's actually a very good question, something that's being talked about a lot in planning. The question was about streamlining. I don't know if anyone in the room's heard of Bill 23 and Bill 109, and the more homes built faster from the province of Ontario. So that timeline that we showed you with the 90 and 120 days would have looked a lot different last year. After that 90, 120 days, generally we would have given comments back to the applicant. They would have gone and changed things, try to address all our concerns, come back us with something else. That could have happened 3 or 4 times. But they've changed those requirements so that now essentially we have to do it in the 90, 120 days. So whatever we get with that initial submission is what we're going to be bringing to planning committee almost. Sorry.
How long was the process before? How long did it take?
So it's still 90 and 120 days, but then there's something called a non-decision appeal that they have the option to appeal for non-decision. They often wouldn't. They just work with planning staff to go back and forth, sometimes for a year and a half, and then we go back to the planning committee with something that we kind of all felt comfortable with, or they would kick it back to the OLT. Sorry, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, so those are all provincial jurisdictions, right? Like the planning
Yes.
act of the province decides that and imposes that on the municipalities. We don't have a choice.
No. So what they've said is after 90 or 120 days, we have to start giving the developer their application fees back.
Mhm.
And we've decided as a city that we're not going to do that. We need those fees to pay for the work that we do. So we will be meeting those deadlines.
So does this mean though that the council should say no to some of these developments?
They have that option,
Send them
right?
back to restart it then, rather than just rubber stamp it on
So
something that they
yeah,
don't really like.
it wouldn't really work that way. If they said no, then the applicant would have the option to appeal. Then it would become the decision of the OLT, no longer decision of council.
An OLT is a provincial tribunal, which means that they will want those developments to go through. So that's a really big challenge.
So that
out there.
means that any developer that comes with anything at all is gonna get it through.
You
Email
can
your
try and like go back, but the fact is, these 90 and 100 days are really what's like kind of hand tying us. The fact that we're forced to go through this as quickly as possible. So. Sorry.
Do we know if it's an infill property? I understood there was a question mark about that.
Which,
The property
at Delta? No, Delta is a New Horizon property, New Horizon development.
So in that, is it a affordable housing building?
No, market rates. Although I think we can have that discussion too, because it is along the LRT route. There may be opportunity for affordable housing in it. I'm looking at Alana, like.
Yeah, it would be,
Yep. you forgot that.
so it would depend on what type of affordable housing they want to propose and, what that looks like and what the policies say. So there's always opportunity for conversation, but as Mark said, the challenge will be doing it within the timeline.
So the market person is developing this project for, like, just for an example, for say people that are middle class, people that could afford a condo, like a condo project, condo themselves. Would it be the empty nesters and that sort of thing?
So New Horizon is the one that purchased the Delta secondary property. They are the same developers that purchased the Brock University development. So what they have said is that the market dictates what kind of units are going to be in there. So at this point, they're saying it is a lot of single studio, 1 bedrooms. It's because those they know sell.
Mhm.
But this is where I think, like, the only one that I have a little bit of opportunity with is the Delta secondary one, because the Brock University one is at tribunal, it's out of the appeal process, it's out of my hands. But that's where we can talk about Delta secondary, but that kind of.
So we have 2 major projects in Ward 4. They're
Yes.
Probably the biggest projects in the city.
Yeah.
No.
Pretty close to moving ahead at this stage. And we have a Bill 23.
Yep.
That releases the developers.
Yep.
From a lot of rules.
Yep.
That normally they would have to follow.
Yep.
And development fees.
Yep.
That the taxpayer has to pay for now.
Exactly.
So people aren't aware of what this means to this area.
What is that? How can I help answer that question, guys?
So this is a big problem.
Yep.
Yep.
100%. But is there anything, do you guys want to comment on that at all?
I mean, it's kind of beyond the scope of what we do, like we're,
Because you don't have any control of what they want. You won't. And if they'll appeal your decision, go to the OMB, that's what it's called. And they always favor the developer. And more times than not, I think 90% is what they favor.
Well, remember, that's Ontario Land Tribunal is in Ontario.
And that's just Doug Ford, our premier, who's pushing for development.
I'm glad you're reading between the lines. I didn't want to explicitly say that, but
Okay.
yes.
That was not planned.
Yes, that is correct. But you know when it changed? Before I got sworn in. Literally, Doug Ford got elected in June. Then all of this happened. We had a whole election. And then I think it was like November 4th or something. They're like, and guess what, guys? Bill 23. We're, what? We're not even in yet. We haven't even been sworn in. We literally have no opportunity. And then the appeal process was terrible. The commenting process was terrible. The date to close for the comments was actually before they actually closed the comments. It was like ridiculous.
The original plan wasn't that bad.
That's right.
It wasn't that at all. And then all of a sudden, my neighbor showed me what it's supposed to look like now. That's not what we were told by the Spectator and everybody else. That what was gonna happen.
February 15th, guys. Let me drill that into your brain. February 15th. We have a slide on this. So definitely.
Can I just ask, in Burlington, they had the same problem on the lake shore there, when they were gonna build those big twin towers. They've already been through the scenario that we're starting, and they managed to stop it. Those twin towers that they were gonna build. Right.
I suspect that they went through this process and they were able to.
They were denied that appeal, but they pushed it further than that.
We'll look into that.
If you want to give me the info, I can look it up.
Yeah, I wonder if you can give an update on the process of designating major transit station areas along Main and whether or not that area around Delta High is being considered as a major transit station area, which would enable you to use the inclusionary zoning tool in the planning act.
So very good questions. So the questions about the work that's ongoing with major transit station area planning and inclusionary zoning. So there's actually a report going tomorrow about the first report about the inclusionary zoning project. So you could tune into that on the website. The planner to talk to, her name is Tiffany Singh. You can find her information online. And then tied to that, there is ongoing work to delineate the major transit station areas, like you mentioned, so that we can use the inclusionary zoning tool. So more on that definitely coming in the next few months, and something you can monitor through those project websites.
Let's go.
I think that the Delta development, they're asking for an appeal to be zoned as a transit corridor, medium density, I believe.
Yes.
It says on this.
Yeah, it's a different,
It's
the
different?
zones aren't really tied to the, I can't remember off the top if it is in the MTSA Delta, but something I could follow up on, or proposed to be in the MTSA. But yeah, that is work that's a high priority right now, so it's. gonna
So
be
Mark,
coming.
I think you gotta work on
Okay.
that, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Can you provide clarification on what developments are exempt from the development charges or that?
I know I can't, I don't know if the land, this is not really our wheelhouse as land use planners, but there's people working their heads around it, mostly in our finance group. But yeah, we're more land use planners, unfortunately.
From what I know, some of the nonprofit affordable housing is exempt. But I don't have the exact language around that, but please send me an email and ask me that directly in email form, and I will get back to you.
Just want to clarify, was Shepherd.
It's not, no, it's not everything, no.
No.
Yes, sir.
One question is about parking. When they do like Delta, we just live up the street, they do all the movie shoots, we can't park in our own area. What's gonna happen? Again, it'll be the same. They'll be parking everywhere, and we'll have to find another place to park.
And some people share driveways.
Yes.
Okay, that is a good question. I don't think Mark and Alana would know that, but our team has taken that question in, right?
yeah, I've been taking all the questions.
We'll get back to you. Yes.
From what I've seen of the drawings of the parking, it's all underground.
100%,
Yes,
yeah.
I think that what our neighbor is talking about is like just in that interim, where is all
all
the
the time when they have friends coming to visit, they don't
That's
park on the
right.
road, they park on the roads.
And you have
There's not
people with
enough.
multiple cars that only have one spot underground.
Yes.
Someone's losing a spot.
Yeah, so
good questions.
Permit parking.
Good questions. Permit parking. Our team has taken that under advisement. Anything else, Pascal?
yeah, the Delta is only at the application process, so there's still lots of room for changes. So if you want to send that as a comment through the public consultation, we have the contact info, send them that information over.
Sent to who?
We'll
It's
we'll
on
get
the-
to it in the
okay.
slide. It's that magical slide.
Yeah, I'm like the one that I keep referring to. But I just haven't seen it. Yes.
I want to know, we had the Los Angeles Homes development, townhome development at the Woodward School, and I was like all for that. But the city wanted a pedestrian easement. And we all said, no, we don't want that, because if you're a drug dealer in the complex, it's a great place to park and do your drug deal, just sneak around the corner. And we also said, well, yeah, you have a parking lot, for like there's a garage and a spot to park. But everybody fills their garage with junk. They don't park in it. And then the driveways are really, really tiny. So I wrote a number of times to the land planning and to Sam Manuba, hey, we're all for this townhome thing, but guys, like, we don't want that pedestrian easement. There's gonna be drug dealing. It's already a problem in our neighborhood. It's gonna happen. People are gonna also park because they don't have enough room because the complex was built without enough parking. Not a single person emailed me back. Not a single person. And then, now, guess what's happening? Drug
So,
deals and people parking.
so my hope is that
everywhere.
you guys will feel more comfortable to message my team directly, because that way we can start to keep track of these things, and that way we can also connect directly with our planners and any of the right city staff. But it's about closing the loop, right? It's about you guys making an inquiry, something happens, but at some point, we want to make sure that you guys get updated on your first inquiry. So the whole hope is please message our office at ward4@hamilton.ca, and we hope we're on it. So, yes, sir.
You say closing the loop, if I may say, it took an email from me standing in opposition of what's going on across the street at Delta in order to get a reply from you and find out about this meeting tonight. There's no one in the neighborhood that was aware of this meeting. I could show you
Yeah.
people that I notified personally about this. We received no notification. So we feel that there's no transparency going on.
Yep.
And we reached out to you during the movie process
Yes.
when our bloody neighborhood was a battlefield where we were fighting for parking spots for our own houses.
Right.
And meanwhile, nobody cared about the individual homeowner. The city was rubber stamping applications, inundating our area with cars completely out of control. The garbage trucks at one time couldn't even come down the road.
So that is definitely something that we have received a lot of those comments, but I don't want to discount that, so let me park that for a second. Can I ask for one more round of questions for our planners? Because then if we're done with the planners, we can thank them again, but yes.
Hi, this is President for City Planners. So what is the definition for us lay people of what, and I'm going by the application notice that was done within the 120 meters around the Delta High School. So we live directly across the street from the school. So
So
that's
you
all
guys
the
got
people in
that,
here.
right?
Yeah. So my question is, because the application for the zoning bylaw, according to this notice, is to rezone from community institutional to transit-oriented corridor, mixed use, medium density. What is mixed use, medium density in terms of the planning committee's definition of what that is?
So the question was, what is sort of the mixed use medium density definition as described in the zoning bylaw? And so in the zoning bylaw, we have generally three types of, I'll say, land uses. We have low density residential, which tends to be your single family homes, your semis, your townhouses. Medium density residential are your apartments that or low rise townhouses. And so that could be a 6-story apartment building in terms of that built form. And then high rise, which is something we look at, is usually taller than 12 stories. And so what that zone would be is medium rise to allow for the medium rise apartment. And then mixed use is usually just commercial and residential. So a combination of a different kind of multiple uses. And so.
Okay, I have a follow-up question to that. So then if the definition of medium density is up to 12 stories in an apartment building, the application that we received was for 14 stories. So what would be the criteria that they would be, the owners of the venture would have to present to justify the extension of it, 2 additional floors and what the bylaw allows?
Yeah, and so the question was the application, which specifically in the case of Delta, asked for 14 stories. What would they do to justify that? So unfortunately, I can't answer that myself. Again, Daniel on the invisible slide that we keep referencing would be somebody to talk to for that additional information. But largely what you would look at is these studies here. So things like the urban design brief, the planning justification report, all of that information, the onus is on the applicant to give us all of those studies and say, this is why we think that increase is reasonable. Or, you know, why the side yard could be smaller, or why there could be more landscaping. But these studies would be provided to us to inform whether or not that's a request that.
I did ask about that actually. Sorry, I did ask about that. Why was it 12 and then 14? Turns out it's like the height. There was a certain height level and they were able to eke out 14 levels inside of the height. That's why.
I'm sorry, where was that location?
Delta.
At Delta.
At Delta, yeah, because I was like, but it says 12. Why does it say 14? They're like, oh, because there was a certain height limit and the developer was able to like kind of adjust ceiling heights. And then,
Yeah, I heard it was like 44 meters. and so
something
it
like
worked
that,
out,
yeah, something like that.
So if I could just clarify, what you just mentioned was today in the discussion, I was actually watching the last YouTube council meeting, or it was on Zoom. So basically what I gathered from, and they were professionals, these guys know what they're doing. They get more height if they put in lower income housing.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, they discuss it. I heard them discuss it.
All right, that's a question I'm gonna put in the bank, because I'm gonna ask that about that.
I think it's like
Sorry,
a-
Mark, did you want to answer that question at all?
They get favor, they
Yeah.
get favor.
I was just gonna add in terms of the hierarchy of plans we started with, so if you're changing the zoning, you have to go back to the official plan and show how you meet those policies. If you don't, you have to amend those, so that's kind of in addition to all of this.
One more question, how high can the fire department go? Can they go their ladders up to the 14th floor?
Probably not.
honestly, they ask a lot of the experts for this, so there are experts that actually, because like, it's, honestly, we're at this point, we're speculating, but the experts are asked for all of these reports, and if the experts say yes and they sign off on it, kind of gotta go with what the experts are saying, right?
And then if the wind's blowing the wrong way, we're in trouble.
I'm not so sure about that, but
I have to bring up this Bill 23 again, which is very dangerous for municipalities. Because all this stuff that you've got here that they have to meet, they'll contest everyone and they'll get what they want. I have to emphasize that. So you can complain all you want.
thank you,
You're welcome.
thank you. Now, please write a letter to Doug Ford. That would be awesome.
Yeah, right.
I'm just wondering, in that process where there's public consultation, what number, like how many letters do you need from community members for it to be like enough to sway something? Like what are we looking at? Like, am I gonna have to like rally the troops? Everyone's we're sending our letters. Like how many?
Just to get back to who the decision maker is, like, it's not us, so but our role or Elena's role or Daniel, we keep bringing it up for Daniel.
He really is a person.
So
Not able to make it.
he's the one who, like, our role as planners, we provide recommendations and we have to follow the evidence, we have to follow the policies, we have to follow what the experts are telling us. We have to listen to the community, of course.
So how many community members need to say something?
Yeah, there's no number for us. I mean,
Generally speaking, comparative to like the experts, like if an expert's saying, carport is fine, tick, but everyone in the community is saying, no, we want it to be 8 stories or whatever. How many of us need to say that?
I think
Generally speaking, for it to be heard.
usually it's gonna be more than like 25, but a lot is awesome.
Everyone in the neighborhood.
So,
What if
yeah.
90% of the neighborhood signed off on a petition to say, we don't want this?
So, yeah, let's use speed bumps for an example. My predecessor said that in order for a speed bump to go down a major, like a street, he required at minimum 80% of all of the residences to sign off on said speed bump. So if we think about speed bump along, let's call Webster, right?
Yeah.
Webster.
That for 3 years and still didn't get them.
How about Maple?
So, but that's what my predecessor told me was, that's what, like, at minimum, it would have been 80%, so.
Of the neighborhood or of the, on that street?
Of that street.
The street.
Of that street. So, but we'll get into that too. We'll talk about that traffic calming and all that stuff. Yes, I'm for.
So just in terms of examples, I know you guys are on the first 23 that have to make alterations to the plan. So say the community or that yourself want an 8-story or 9-story versus the 14 or 12-story that was proposed. Is there time within that 120 days realistically to make those alterations? Just in terms of the reality.
So I'll try my best to answer the question here, but just for caveat, the bill was just passed and came into effect January 1st. So we really haven't had a lot of opportunity to see what we can do within that time frame. But to sort of give you some context, what a zoning bylaw and an official plan amendment and application previously, as Mark stated. Oh, by the way, the question was, can we make changes within 120 days, changing the height or things like that? But previously, before this bill was passed, some applications would take 384 days to 500 days, just based on the number of back and forth and the amount of time it takes to provide those drawings. And so given that sometimes for larger projects, that's how much time it took, 120 is significantly less than that. So
one thing I would say is we really scrambled because we didn't have a lot of time, but one thing that my team has tried to do is front load a lot of that work we used to do after the application was submitted. So we do have that formal consultation. We're trying to do a lot of that back and forth to try to, get it to a better place before it actually submitted. And we're hoping that applicants are receptive to that, because then, hopefully that they'll get us on side. we hope that they want us on their side. But the problem is, like you mentioned, that's not part of the public process. So, you know, once you see the plan and the circulation's out, there might have already been a lot of back and forth, but you really have, with that 90, 120 days to make your comments.
And last couple of questions.
I'm just gonna add one more thing. The only other thing is, one of the things that I know Mark's team looked at is updating the guidelines just to try to front load a lot of the things we did previously. And so one of the requests, for example, is that the public consultation meeting that I believe Councilor Lang mentioned, for example, Delta, that would actually have to be done before they submit the formal application. So right now, you might not see it until it's been submitted to the city. One of the things that we required them to do is to front load it. So in some way, shape or form, they have to inform the neighborhood and prove that they've informed the neighborhood that an application is coming forward, because we know that it's a tight window.
So last two questions and then we're gonna move on. Yes.
I was just wondering, how much does it cost for a applicant for an applicant to go through the process?
It's about 30,000
So
for application.
I know your hands are tied, but the city's turning around and gonna rubber stamp a lot of this stuff in 120 and 90 days to get that, to get 30. I know the city needs the money badly, but this is crazy that we're gonna rubber stamp stuff just to make everybody happy and get $30,000 in cash.
So just something about the note about the fees. This is cost recovery. So calculate how much it costs to process an application, and that's where the fee comes from.
But then we come down to, I understand that part of it, the cost of stuff, but where do you draw the line and what happens to people who live in the city and how much the city is getting for that?
That is exactly what we're super worried about. Because what happens is if you end up being like the rubber stamping, you're gonna have bad design, bad communities, right? So
Or doesn't care.
that's, so this is where
That's why.
my neighbors, if you can help, that would be wonderful.
That's against the planners, but.
No, yeah,
It's the situation that you're caught in, the city's caught in.
100%, absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. And last question over here, sir.
Yes, I understand your job basically is to accumulate facts and make recommendations based on those facts. Those facts come from the studies. They're submitted to you. And those studies are paid for by the city or the applicants.
So the question is, who pays for the studies? The applicant pays for the studies, but that's part of that technical review. We have departments who peer review them.
So they get to pick who's going to do the actual study and put it together.
Yes.
Okay, so you could be possibly dealing with a biased study in the first place. I'm not saying you'll be biased, but.
Yeah. So just to clarify, the peer review process is the peer review process is when experts and people who have been working in that field for many, many years review the work of someone else's report to make sure that what they're writing and what they've put in is fact and not fluff. Yeah. So I think that's how you were meant. It's peer reviewed by staff at the city, right? Yeah.
This timeline, it's gonna screw things up because they're sped up so much more than they were before. So there won't be time to review any problems that might happen along the way.
Yep.
It's a bad.
Yep. Thank you. Everyone, please join me in thanking both Mark and Alana. Alrighty, thank you again. So we kind of got into the meat of things, guys? But I thought maybe we'll just move forward with a bit of a Ward 4 update. It's been wild. Especially since, like we've already said, a lot of big changes happening even before we were even sworn in, so it was nuts. But then we ended up having some really amazing orientation. One of the things that we're moving forward on is Mayor Horvath is asking all of council to come together to come up with our strategic priorities. And given the conversations that we've been having around the horseshoe, a lot of it will be around affordability. A lot of it will be around climate change. A lot of it will be, thank you guys, bye. And a lot of it will be looking at how are we delivering better services to Hamiltonians. So I'm excited for that. That's at the end of March. But moving forward, I'm on a lot of committees, and of which one of them is actually planning committee. And that was because this is exactly what you guys have, what you have said to me you're concerned with. Brock University, the Brock development, the Delta secondary development, LRT. So this was my way of trying to listen to what we are saying tonight. And that way it'll get translated into planning committee tomorrow and beyond. But yeah, I'm on planning committee for tomorrow. I'm also on essentially audit, finance, and administration. What that is it's a big committee that actually looks at the processes of the city of Hamilton. So one of my big challenges is just permitting. Before Doug Ford and the Bill 23, it did took 500 days to actually push through a permit. So I wanted to say, but why? Why does it take that long? So this is where I really wanted to try and affect change, is that being on the audit, finance, and administration. And the last one is emergency and community services. Again, what I have heard from you, my neighbors, is that homelessness is there. It is not going away, but we need opportunities at thinking about affordability and how do we get people into attainable housing. So that's a big reason why joining emergency and community services is looking at it from a holistic, whole services kind of perspective. I'm actually also on City Housing Hamilton. There's a lot of challenges with City Housing Hamilton. I will say that there is a new CEO at City Housing Hamilton who is, I'm super excited for him. And there will be changes coming forward to the city-run social housing. So there's a bunch happening. And then I get really interested about utilities and technology and innovation as well. So there's a bunch happening there. But let's go quickly through the budget. We passed the capital budget. There are two budgets. The capital budget, I swear to you, was 3 inches thick. And I was like, oh, it's really tough. But that capital budget speaks to infrastructure. And we all know we have had so much deficit with our infrastructure. And I can see Mark is like, at this point, I am sorry to tell you, but I do want to be the one to be honest with you. Our taxes are going up. It is what it is. At this point, the very first budget, like I said, the capital budget is adding approximately $41 to each household that's valued at $382,000. So that's kind of like how we're trying to like level set everybody, so everybody kind of knows. I know, right? I think that, and it's MPAC assessments. Yes, Pascal.
Yeah, it's property tax assessment, not run market.
Yeah, not actual market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. 382,000. Where are they? Let's get those. But yeah, that's looking at it from an MPAC tax assessment. So it's approximately for a house that's worth or valued at 382,000. So there are some really cool things that are going into the capital budget. There's a new 10-year local transit strategy that's coming forward that includes LRT, it includes the new HSR. HSR is going through a re-envision. So actually April, they're going to be presenting to council a brand new HSR routes, maps, all that stuff. So I'm super excited about this because we have spaces in our ward that don't get serviced properly by HSR. So I'm really excited about that. Affordable housing, poverty reduction, solid waste, transportation plan, parkland acquisition, climate change. Climate change is going to be a big one. It's actually a very large line item. It's a couple $2 million because as a city, we suck at climate change. As a corporation, I mean. So these are the things that we're really looking at really changing up how we do business at the city. And then wastewater, stormwater. So you would have seen those on your first water bills. You'll see that there's a new rate today.
7%.
Today.
7%.
Yes. But you know what? We have an aging infrastructure. We are one of the oldest infrastructure in Ontario. And you guys have, I'm sure you have heard that we have been finding giant holes in our system. And a lot of that was from inability to skip. There's a lot. There's a reason. You know what? I'm just not gonna say anymore, right? So I'm just not gonna say. But the fact is, we've got a giant infrastructure deficit that we really need to catch up on. And it's not for us, it's actually for our next generation, right? So the operations budget is not 3 inches thick, it's only 2 inches thick. This one is actually about every single department and all of the different programs that they offer. So starting from January 10th, we have been sitting in on all of these departmental meetings where they're presenting what their department is doing, where are they asking for dollars. I will tell you, every single department so far has asked for an increase, every single one of them. And it's literally between 3% to 7%, of which Hamilton Police Services has also asked for a large amount. So they've asked for 6.7%, but that's perhaps a contentious issue that we may want to talk about later. So in terms of the budget, all of this information is on the hamilton.ca website, and you can delegate to council. In fact, the next public delegation date is Monday, February the 6th, and it starts at 3 o'clock. So I've got my coffee ready and I'm raring to go. So the rest of council will be there from 3 o'clock onwards, and we want to listen and we want to hear. So that's where you can delegate to council, but you do have to let us know by February the 3rd. Okay, again, all of these will be available, all these slides. If you've written down your email address, we will send these slides out to you guys afterwards. We have a public engagement, community engagement website. It's called Engage Hamilton, engage.hamilton.ca. Wait, okay, there we go. So there are different projects that are going to be on there. So I encourage you to check, but as we're talking about newsletters, these are some of the things moving forward. Our team's going to start putting in little notifications, allowing you guys, just giving you guys a heads up that there's different engagement projects that we would like your input on. So upcoming capital projects, we have a lot going on in the ward in the next little bit. What you may have seen is the Lawrence Road retaining wall has been completed. And part of that is also a new pedestrian crossing at King and Kenilworth. So they're fixing the bridge underneath that. And the overpass. Pascal's doing this. I'm not sure.
There's a pedestrian crossing going on the overpass.
Pedestrian crossing on the overpass, yes.
I called and I made a requisition for some information on that bridge there, where underneath the traffic flows from Kenilworth to down Kenilworth.
Yep.
And there's a pedestrian walk on the east side.
And it's like this big.
That's very dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
And when I called the department that I spoke to, I said, I would like to know what you're going to do. And I never got a call back. And that's a problem with City Hall.
Yep.
When you touch base with departments, they don't get back to you.
So I asked about that too. So I talked to our sidewalks guy and they're just like, yeah, that's a little bit tough.
All they have to do is put a concrete barrier along that curve. That inside curve that would protect pedestrians.
That's what we'll bring that back. Yes, we'll bring that back. We literally did ask them though. We're just like, that little sidewalk is super dangerous.
That's what you get from it. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, so I think a lot of that stuff is, I'll get back to,
You'll get back to me.
Pascal, make sure we get this gentleman's contact information. I will definitely try and get back to you.
Climb the stairs there, there's a lot of people that walk.
Yep, totally.
Cycle up
Yep.
Kenilworth to the stairs, and it's very dangerous.
Yes, absolutely, for sure. And Barton Street, guys, Barton Street, finally.
Yeah, the slow construction.
But Barton Street at this point is only between Parkdale and Talbot. And in 2025, we will be embarking on a massive functional review that goes from Ferguson all the way to Kenilworth. But then I said, but what about Kenilworth to Parkdale? And they said, we'll get back to you. And I was like, oh, so we have absolutely made that as a big note on our to-do list to continually follow up, because we know that a lot of Barton will be taken care of, but it's just that one part specifically in Ward 4 that is not being taken care of. Yes, Aaron.
I'm still interested on the Ottawa to Kenilworth for Cannon Street. Is that, it's like they did west of that, east of that, but that whole section has been.
Ottawa to okay, so the question is Ottawa to Kenilworth on Cannon. We'll take that back. I did not see that on the ongoing capital works. So the document that they gave us for the ongoing capital works was really long. So I will make a note. We'll make a note to look at that. Okay, thank you. There's water main stuff. So we just know that there's water stuff coming. You'll see these in the slides. We'll send them to you. And then let's talk about development projects. All right, guys. So the Brock University, the Brock development there's literally very little information because we've been receiving information from the lawyers that it's at land tribunal. It is not done by the developer in this or any of the others. This is actually a third party, and it's actually one of our neighbors, Dave Wilson, that's actually heading up this appeal. So thank you, Dave Wilson, for your leadership on this. So at this point, I have no real news to share with you. At this point, everything is stalled up until the land tribunal figures out whether to go ahead with this appeal or not. So our lawyers will not talk about it, our planners can't talk about it, and neither will New Horizon, because we asked New Horizon to come here tonight and they said no. 14. Yeah, exactly. We'll move that around, but yeah, it's 14. Yeah, it's a big development. Yes.
Yeah, can you tell me what Ontario Land Tribunal is? Like, why did it go? I don't understand.
So with the Ontario Land Tribunal, think of it as the council has to approve all of these developments. And then you might have the community, you might have another council, you might have the developer, you might have somebody else that says, whoa, this is not good. We don't like this. So we want to go back and we want somebody else at a higher level to actually take a look at it. And that's what the Ontario Land Tribunal is. They're that next level up that actually can help with facilitation and mediation. Ultimately, if they're the ones that say yay or nay, we kind of have to just move forward with it because they represent the province and the province says what it wants to do. And then we just say, okay.
It used to be called the Ontario Municipal Board.
So there's no real notice on this. I'll keep you guys updated when I find out. Next one, 1284, Delta. Delta's my high school, so I am also intensely interested in what's happening with this. Again, it is owned by New Horizon, so they are the same developer as the Brock University development. This is where, I actually don't have updated notes, Pascal, but it's February the 15th, right? I don't think we have the notes here.
It's there. It's on page 2.
It's on the what?
Oh, to the right corner.
Okay, last bullet.
Public input until February 15th, but we didn't write down who they need to talk to with this. We'll send this, we'll augment this slide and we'll send it back out, okay, everyone? Sorry about that, but yes, that is the final date for public consultation. You have all just received documentation around that. And that was where, when I received it, I highlighted it and made the team talk. Let's figure out how do we share this wide. Reed Avenue is over by Parkdale. It is the new city housing Hamilton, 108 units for affordable housing. It is also having a massive amount of townhouses and 2 new condo towers that are going in. So it's actually going to be a really dense area over there. So it's the 108 city housing Hamilton is almost done. And apparently I will be able to take a tour of it very soon. So it's really close to being done. But if you would like more information, please email us and I will try and get you that information. So that is pretty much it. I am also mindful it is 8:25 and it's super hot in here, so I didn't know. So any questions? Aaron first.
Can we just get the name of the person?
Daniel Bartlett. So I will put that on the slides.
You didn't want to come tonight?
He had a conflict, because trust me, I was like, so Daniel, why aren't you coming? And then he was like, but Alana and Matt are really good. I was like, but Daniel, you're the one that we want to talk about.
That's not a good start.
Wasn't he also the guy for Brock?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he never got back to us then. So I don't know that I trust that he'll get back to me, because we were in the public consultation for Brock and I never heard anything about the final meeting.
Okay. CC me on all of your communications or for office, so then that way we can keep track of it. Because that's something that I'm really trying to do. Yes.
Hi, I just have a question about like your views on this. I know that like I don't want to discourage any neighbors here because the Delta thing does seem like a big issue, but in terms of climate change and the urban boundary, like there's only like it seems like Doug Ford wants to build out and up, but in terms of your views on climate change, because that seems like a big priority for you and your council, like what's the alternative? If we're not building up, then we're building out. So like what's the balance there is my question to you.
I think that there is definitely a building up opportunity. It's also speaking to the other wards and talking about this holistically.
Yeah.
Because it feels as though, Ward 4 has not really had any massive developments except for that's now new Brock and the Delta. So once those two come in, plus the Reed Avenue, we're looking at 22,000 something units in Ward 4. But then you look at other wards like Ward 9 or Ward 12, like Ancaster, why are they building single family dwellings, right? So I think that when we're speaking about this as a council, we're talking about it holistically across the entire city. And it's about building up on lands that we haven't really used yet. But I will tell you, our planning department has also already crunched the numbers and we're gonna hit like 55,000 units in the next 10 years, just because of the sheer volume of applications that were coming in, right? So we're gonna hit our targets regardless of whether Doug Ford wants the Greenbelt or not. Yes.
So we're gonna add all these homes. What are we doing about the roads?
Oh, that's a really great question, because that's why the capital budget came forward and that's why we're all paying an extra $41. So definitely it is part of the master transportation plan, but also we're looking at it again holistically, moving people around the city, ideally also exploring alternative transit, active transportation. So LRT will be a big part of that conversation. The cycling master plan will be a part of the pedestrians, like walking.
Yeah.
That's also going to be a big part of that conversation as well. So it's being holistic about that.
But
as
what
well.
about road widening?
Depends on where it is, right?
Kenilworth is reduced.
Yes.
Ottawa's, not too bad, but people got to start thinking about, you add volume, you need the capacity to leave the area.
Agreed.
And this is very important.
Agreed.
So this holistic talk has to be rational.
Yeah.
So it has to be real. So when are they gonna submit or give out some type of documents to us also about the roads? Because do we want to be jammed up like Toronto, nonstop, can't get anywhere?
It's something
It
that we'll
won't
put
take
on the
very
list.
long.
No, that's an excellent question. I really don't have an answer for that, but yes, that is an excellent question.
The
That's
LRT takes out 3 of the 4 lanes going from Delta to Dunder, where the cars go.
So that is all part of the big transportation master plan. It is something that Ontario, our public works team has already started to put, they're putting presentations together for us for that. So let me get back to you on that. Okay. Yes.
What's the status of your cycling master plan motion you had to speed it up?
So the status of my the accelerated cycling master plan, it has to come before budget. So what that motion was forcing our team to really be ambitious and to think about how we can actually do it. Because at this point, it is going to take us 25 to 30 years and $300 billion. 25 to 30 years. So that's where they have to come up with they're coming back to us with a report that's actually speaking about how that can actually happen.
Was this, but I thought what I heard was something like a 10-year plan that could be spread up to 3 years.
We asked for
If
3
we
years.
hired
Yeah.
5 good people at 500,000.
Yeah, so it was, that was definitely what it was, they think they could shorten it down to 3 years if we had 5 additional FTEs. Again, that was part of the recommendations, but there was no actual business case and there was actually no real numbers because they're like, yeah, we think. So that's where we asked for those hard numbers. Sorry, oh my gosh.
Oh, sorry.
This one?
That's David or Daniel.
This is Daniel. Oh, again, we'll put them in maybe in larger format next time. So, yes.
So how do we take into account the traffic that will happen because of the Delta on Maple and Graham and Wexford? So that they're not now thoroughfares to get down.
Yep. So that is all part of that development process. So remember how Alana and Mark had talked about the process? Part of that is a traffic feasibility. So Brock actually did this too. They had a traffic feasibility. They looked at the number of cars that would potentially be added to the roadways. Where would the roadways, what were going to be the higher use? Also looking at traffic flows, because Delta at this point is also talking about perhaps leveraging Maple as an exit, and that empties out onto Houghton. And that's Houghton's just been the tiniest little street forever, right?
We don't even have traffic.
So that's the thing, right? So these are the things that I think that we're raising very good questions, and we are early enough in the process that we can actually really force some ideas and change.
And are they gonna factor in the traffic that's already gonna be coming from Brock down those side streets already because there's no way to get on the Kenilworth from King Street?
I asked that exact same question.
Because Wexford's already gonna be busier from the Brock side.
100%. So I have asked those same questions as well. Yes.
Do you think that north of Barton, where there's tons of underused industrial land and vacant factories and lots of brownfields, think that might ever be developed into residential? It happened in Toronto. They brilliantly decided to develop on brownfields, and kaboom, it was amazing.
I would love for that. It also comes back to the will of a developer. So many times the developer has to see that vision. One of the things that we're trying to do at City Hall is to essentially ask for a wish list kind of idea. And this is something that I know I've already been floating it around to some of my council colleagues, but the thought is that developers don't really know what we have here. So if we put out a public wish list that says, hey, this is an opportunity, we're hoping that that'll drive some interest. Yeah. So it's thinking about it, trying to be proactive with it and trying to figure it out that way. Yes.
You say climate change is a big part of the budget, it's $2 million, but that's probably less than what the police board is asking as an increase.
100%. Yes.
How you proceed.
This is, I don't know, can I do a poll of you guys? Who here thinks we should pass the police budget at the 6.7% increase?
Can I ask a question first?
Yes.
How are they justifying why do they need?
They say it's a maintenance budget, and to tell you the truth, every single department has asked for something in that range. And a lot of that is because there are inflationary challenges and workforce challenges. So that is standard across all of the other departments. So them saying that does not surprise me because of how many other departments have also said the exact same thing. So for them, that 6.7% is actually considered a maintenance budget to maintain level of service that they have now. They also acknowledge that they are not social workers and that they should not be in the social worker game. And in fact, what we need to be looking at is how do we support our upstream social services to help with, but then at the same time, there are still properties being broken into. There are still violent crimes. So, yes.
I know historically, it's always a surplus at the end of the year, always to have left over millions of dollars. So can I ask if you guys know what the surplus is for last year?
I do not. As council, we actually do not have that much insight into the police budget. All we get are the aggregated numbers. So I don't sit on the police board. Because I don't sit on the police board, all we get is a very high level number. Council can only say yay or nay. We can't talk to them about how they allocate their dollars or anything like that.
Isn't the whole point of the police are not like the military, right? There's civilian review and oversight of them. It's kind of the point of the police. So like, that is infuriating that you don't have a line item thing. Like, we know they spend $800,000 a year on horse costs for some reason. And the budget has gone up by $35 million since 2018. Well, just so everybody remembers, because of Bill 124, the wages of all provincial workers have been frozen. So during the pandemic, nurses couldn't get raises, but the cops get 6.7%, where the nurses were stuck at 1%. So,
okay.
What?
Yeah.
How is it
Hold
possible?
on,
Thank you.
You can't ask that question, like, you
No.
can't get that information. We as like civilians can't get that, like, how did you know that answer?
You can look on the police services website and you can see their audited financial statements for the previous year. So you can see it on a line by line, but because this is coming to us now, just a reminder, I was sworn in on November the 16th. So I don't have any time, I don't have any insight or opportunity to actually speak to the police services about their budget. And I also do not have the right, because I am a council member and not on their police services board. So again, my opportunity is a yay or a nay. Aaron? It's 187 million, I think, like that. It's like, it's like a really big amount of our dollars. And that's all mandated by the province. So. That's also mandated by the province though, because the province says that they need to provide adequate and essential police services. I don't know what that means though. So it's, you might say that we don't have it, they would say that they are providing it, right? So it's really hard. I don't know what adequate and efficient police services is. They did mention that. I don't have that number.
It's almost 100 police for sure.
I don't think it's that much though. But I don't know. But so let's get back to my poll question. Am I voting yay or nay? Can I get a yay for the police budget? Okay. Can I see any nays? Okay, I would say it's probably 2/3 nays to yays. Okay, that's interesting. Thank you so much. And I'm still going to do my research, do my due diligence and that sort of thing. Yeah.
But when they say, you know, we're not social workers, like we know that. Like like when they make a comment like that, it's like, well, you're calling us as if we are social workers. So like, you know, they can fling that back to you as council, but like, what is their solution for that?
They want us to give them more money.
Yeah, exactly. But like that seems to be the opposite of what
Shouldn't
they
the portion
say.
of that money go towards that kind of service development, more social services?
So they'll tell you that they've done the Social Navigator, which is actually an award-winning program, and it's something that is something we as Hamiltonians should be really proud about. The Social Navigator program was something that was piloted here in Hamilton. It's done really well. But they also know that it's perhaps time to either expand and let it grow and not totally be housed in the Hamilton Police Services, but they, like, I've had conversations with the chief about this and his staff. One of the big things for me, diversity, right? So I'm gonna talk about diversity, women on the force. I'm gonna talk about just having it be representative of Hamilton, right? So I'm also really big on data. So I ask them for a lot of data. And so they give me a Ward 4 update every month, so it's really good.
I have one last question
Yes.
about Delta and Brock.
Okay.
It's the indigenous population, have they been informed about what's going on? Because they seem to have a voice in these kinds of developments.
That's an excellent question. I would say no yet.
They have a lot of clout.
Yes.
Probably more than we do.
And you know what they said to me? They know how to organize. And I was
Yes,
like,
they do.
yeah,
Yes, they do.
good point.
I have another question about safety of street, the corner of Maple and Townhall Street.
Oh, that one's coming. Actually, Counselor Nan and I, we're definitely putting something at Maple and Ottawa because that is.
What are you gonna do?
We are asking the roads because it likely doesn't make sense to have a red light at that location. But I don't know if a painted sidewalk is enough or a flashing lights thingy.
You can't even cross with a car.
Fair. So I think that's where it's high on our list for both Counselor Nan and I, and it was something that she had a little bit of challenges getting that across with previous counselors, but now I'm like, no, everybody says we need that. So I am happy to push that forward. We're just right now looking at the business cases of what to put in there, so. Yes.
First, thanks so much for having this town hall. Secondly, I think we've heard from a lot of our neighbors that they had a hard time finding out about this. I learned about this from Instagram. I'm really online, but that doesn't mean everybody is. So can you tell us about your communication plan about how we reach out to people?
Perfect. Thank you. I hope that you guys received my postcard.
Yes.
Yes?
No.
What? I paid for a lot. Those are really expensive postcards.
They were nice.
That's why I'm saying it's a very expensive postcard. So that was our first foray into trying to reach everyone all in one go, was to do the postcards. Clearly, that was learnings, team learnings. But one of the big things was to encourage those that do not have access to social media to contact our office by calling. They can come in and say hi to me and hi to Jack and Pascal, and essentially getting their addresses on our list. And we'll also be sending out paper newsletters to those that don't have access to social media. But we are doing a social media strategy, a website, and we're actually trying to do these town halls 3 times a year. So the next town hall is planning to be April, end of April. So, and I think given this crowd and how hot it's, you guys are so hot in here. But the idea that we're gonna have a bigger space. So I think what we might try is to go to like Winston Churchill, somewhere a little bit bigger. And it's very central in the ward. This one in particular, we really wanted to come here was because we wanted to talk about Delta and Brock. And a big part of us pushing was to try and get New Horizon to come in. But because New Horizon said that they're in a land tribunal and technically they're not, so I was like, okay, fine. But we'll keep you guys updated about that. Yes.
Why don't we give all these people New Horizon phone numbers and emails?
It'll be in the slides.
We'll put it in the slides. Make sure that your email address is with us. Yes.
So I'm leaving here feeling pretty disheartened, to be honest.
Yes,
And kind of like, okay, well, so there's several 14-story buildings being built across the street from my house. In terms of like best bang for your buck, what can I, or we as a community, where is individual email the best from each and every one of us and our neighbors? And they like what would you do to make our voice as impactful as possible? Where in the process can we get in? And
because I hear you and I am here right now, but planning department is 9 other counselors. General Issues Committee is 15 plus the mayor. And so in order for your concerns to be absolutely definitively heard by other counselors, because I'm only 1 vote. Now remember that. I am only 1 vote in 16. So to make yourselves best bang for your buck is to try and delegate either virtually or in person to a planning committee meeting. And that's something that, again, February 15th is the deadline to submit. And we will try and push and push and push to get everyone to hear about that and learn about that. But the best bet, because I am hearing you, my team is hearing you, but at the end of the day, I am only one vote.
So what should, like, what
Come
should
to
I?
delegate or send letters or send notes to the planning committee to tell,
And tell our neighbors to do the same.
yes,
Okay.
because
Send,
yes.
send notes to the planning committee,
Yes.
emails to the planning committee, and tell everyone you know in the neighborhood to do the same.
We will also send that in the slides.
Yeah.
Sorry, and that's who we're sending it to the Barnett.
Yeah.
Daniel Barnett, but planning committee will,
February 15th.
yeah, we'll put it all in the slides when we send everything back out to everyone, so that way you have that information in your inboxes.
Attaching our proposals to the mayor be a better way of doing it? Because the mayor now has more votes.
She needs to hear it too.
She does not have more votes yet,
Not yet.
not yet.
She will.
She, at this point, I don't know, because Doug Ford throws me for a wrench every time, so I don't know.
Apparently, she's supposed to be able to turn council. Overturn.
So she will, if she has big mayor powers, she will then have 6 votes to her 1. So she will, yeah, so she will have the opportunity to overturn.
Yes.
But at this point today, I mean, she doesn't have that. She has 1 vote. And that's not until, if we are hearing the rumors, it will be end of April. But we don't know because don't quote me, because nothing has been said publicly. All I hear are these things in the ether. But that's what again, best bang for your buck. Delegate, send emails to planning committee, to Daniel Barnett. Those will all be received by planning committee. And honestly, that is the best way for you to share, because other than my word on council, they need to know that the community feels this way too.
How about signatures?
Signatures, I think anything will help, yeah, anything will help. Pascal.
I just want to point out that only those who send those comments by February 15th will have an opportunity. I misunderstood what the planner said, to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. So you have to make that 15.
With Bill 23 though, third parties cannot appeal. So at this point, I don't really know.
That's right, yeah.
That's not entirely true, that's for minor variance.
That's for minor variances? Thank you, Erin.
So 15, you have 2 weeks. Okay.
So
All your name.
we should just organize. What we're doing is we're organizing, right? Yes, sir.
I feel quite out of place here from the Rosedale Neighborhood Association, and that's the premise that I came here tonight. But I do feel a lot of sympathy for you. The question I have is there not a neighborhood association in your group, in your vicinity?
Do we have a neighborhood association in the Delta neighborhood?
And just
We have the Crown Point, but Crown Point shares with Ward 3, right?
Yeah.
You've got something going?
We just started an email. It's called one second.
Pro-action Delta.
Pro-action Delta.
Pro-action Delta?
Proactiondelta@gmail.com.
Okay, actually,
So
why don't we connect with Pascal and then let's put it on the
It's
notes.
just us, but we're trying to organize.
Absolutely.
I can say
Yeah.
for this pseudo group, for those of us that got this notice in our mailboxes on Friday, we know a lot of the community did not. And so some of us got together and said, let's organize an email group to let people know we were going to go out this evening and hand these out in mailboxes, because we know even like 2 doors down on Houghton from Maple, they didn't get it. The first house did, but the rest of the block did not.
But that's within the 60 meters.
So that's where we're like, we wouldn't even have known what was happening if we had kind of put our heads together, because we saw that February 15th deadline, and that's like 2 weeks away, so.
Yeah, so again, I cannot impress upon you, February 15th. Yes.
I think people need to understand how the process works. And we did a delegation of pollution.
Yeah.
Our group. And what you have to do, you have to put an application in at city clerk.
Yep.
You have to have one person speak, but everybody should attend that meeting. We address public health.
Yep.
And we were What became of it? What became, oh, promises, nothing happened at all. I was really disappointed in the process. But it's typical of Hamilton, you know. But
Yeah.
I think that you go to City Hall and you go to Hamilton, you have to apply to City Hall, what you're gonna do and what you're gonna propose. And then you get it, and you got the opportunity to speak to City Council. And then everybody in the neighborhood should go and support you.
Build a
You have to
gallery.
have one, you have to have one speaker.
Well, you can have multiple, so as long as you put in the request to clerks that you would like to delegate, you have to fill out a form. And the form says like, what do you want to delegate on and that sort of thing. And
Can you explain what delegate is? You said the
Oh.
word a few times.
sorry.
What does it mean?
It means showing up in person or showing up virtually to actually speak to council or speak to planning committee or anything like that. So delegation means like you're actually essentially either in person or virtually coming in front, or you can also, that's correspondence, but yes, Pascal's also doing this too. You can also type letters. You can type letters, you can send letters to the clerk's office to speak to a specific topic as well. But when we talk about delegation, delegation is coming in front of council or committee, either in person or virtually.
So who do we send that to, that February 3rd deadline?
Clerks@hamilton.ca, but there's also Danielle Bartlett, Barnett, sorry, Barnett.
But the delegate was the deadline of February 3rd.
Yeah, so that's to clerks@hamilton.ca. Okay. Yeah.
Can I ask one
Yes.
question? Is this still operating at City Hall?
It is, and it's actually been rolled into the new climate change office that Dr. Linda Lukazik, who was the former executive director of Environment Hamilton, is now leading that group. So
And it's been disclosed to them?
Dennis,
Cool. What my concern with that group is, if you read the guidelines of Clean Air Hamilton, who funds it? ArcelorMittal and US Steel. So there you go.
but now Clean Air Hamilton is going to be funded by the budget, which is actually all of us.
So maybe we get some of them.
And I'm really excited about the climate change office. I also, what we don't hear today is some of the challenges in the North End neighborhood about noise and air pollution. So those are also challenges within this ward that I am also intensely interested in. So I think that the climate change office will also, I'm very focused on trying to find that it's moving forward and it's being fiscally responsible with how they're spending dollars there. So, all right, I am just mindful of the time. I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming. Our next town hall is going to be in April. Please, if you haven't had a chance to sign up with your email address, please do. That way we can connect with you again. Our team will endeavor to work harder to make sure that more of our community actually comes out to the next town hall. But please share that information. We're going to follow up with the planning slides as well as these slides. And then please keep in touch. Our ward for office is here to serve you. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
I did want to bring up my stoker. It seems pretty insignificant compared to the
No,
other.
no, your stoker.
I'll send you an email.
No, your stoker
I got a
is
couple others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I didn't even know that. I don't live like that. I'm right at heart in the red.
Okay, sorry.
So I'm
Different issue,
nowhere near
but no,
this.
you're very aware of this.
Hi, where's Tammy's office?
It's at City Hall.
She doesn't have one in Ward 4?
No, I do not have a budget for
An office?
for an office. But we will be keeping like probably after the budget, like council budget stuff. We'll be doing in like a coffee shop
What's your name? We've spoken on the phone. We've spoken on the phone. My issues with that light on Ottawa Street and Maple. And the Kenilworth underpass. Remember? Yeah. But it's good that she knows about it.
Oh, absolutely.
And things are happening.
You make sure to like type up like data to her, so like every single complaint, every single issue, she knows about.
Yeah, she's got a lot on her calendar. She really does.
Well, we're hoping to make sure to.
With the rule was all going to be get a newsletter every before the town hall meeting. But for these issues that are here today, this is just a small percentage of what you're going to have.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very small percentage. It was insignificant.